Everybody says that modern lenses are just better, sharper, faster, and more expensive. So I wanted to find out if that was actually true and if I could recreate some of the magic that I was capturing on my film cameras using my R5s. So what I did was I compared my Canon RF 1.2 50mm, which is arguably one of the best portrait lenses ever made, against my Zuiko 50mm 1.4. And honestly, the results were just not what I was expecting. I've always loved shooting film. There's just something about film cameras, especially the Olympus OM1, that you just can't reproduce digitally. And for many years, I just assumed it was the film instead of a digital sensor. But recently, I started thinking, what if it wasn't just the film stock, and it was something to do with the lenses and the characteristics that those old vintage lenses have. So what I did was I adapted my 50mm Zuiko onto my Canon R5 and compared it against the R5's RF 50mm 1.2. So we use the same camera, the same subject, the same photographer, just a different lens. After shooting a model shoot in the studio to get this perspective on the portraits that I could create, and after I got back from the studio and I jumped onto the laptop and I started comparing those images, this is where things got a little bit interesting for me. So the Canon lens, the RF, as you can expect, exceptionally sharp, a good balance of contrast, and clinically accurate in its autofocus. Well, the Zuiko couldn't be more different. The contrast's lower, the rendering's different, and wide open, it's noticeably softer than the RF's one. So this is where you get a difference in your backgrounds and a difference in your highlights, and you get highlights that just melt into each other. It just looks so much more appealing to the eye. And there's this subtle glow that the lens has that just gives those portraits a bit more character to them. So we'll jump into Lightroom and we'll take a closer look at each of these shots, and then I'll show you a photo of a lens on my desk to compare and describe a little bit more what I'm talking about. So here we are in Lightroom, and as we can see, we have the 50mm 1.2 on the left, and I had this shot a little bit more open at f2. The same on this photo here, which is the Zuiko 50mm at f2, just to make this test a fair comparison. So as we zoom in, I mean, even from this angle, we can see this lens is noticeably softer. This balloon that we get from this light is so different compared to the RF's, very clinically sharp. And in the RF version, we've got a bit more background, especially if we look at the unedited version. I could notice it a lot more. I could see more light and stuff back here, whereas this version was really dark. So as we zoom in, we can notice across the model's face, this lens is a lot softer than it is in the RS 50mm. So for me, that character is what gives those film portraits the actual look. But for so long, I was thinking it was the film stock that would give me this look, but it's actually more to do with the glass. But it's so apparent when you put the images side by side that I didn't even realize how different these lenses were performing. And me personally, I actually prefer the vintage lens over the RF version. I mean, there's a place for the RF glass in professional photography when we need that crisp image, we need more in focus, we need professional work. But for personal work like this, I feel like the vintage lens just wins hands down. We shoot feminine portraits, I mean, we want soft, we want glowy, we want that female empowerment look. And if we jump over to this second example, again, f2 on both lenses, we zoom into the model, we can see how much softer the vintage lens is. I mean, it may be shown very subtle on your screen because of YouTube's compression, but to me it's night and day, and it just looks, the colors are different, it's very subtle, but to a trained eye that I know what I'm looking for, I can notice it massively, especially in the reds. The reds come through a lot darker, whereas on the RF we've got a lot brighter and more punchy red color. So to give you a very basic example, this was shot at f1.2 on the RF, and this was shot at f1.4 on the Zuiko. So if we zoom into the text, we can see here that on the RF, even the text here is very in focus. This is clinically sharp with a nice soft drop off, totally beautiful lens, cannot fault it at all. But if we jump over to the Zuiko, we could notice, I don't know if you notice it, but this glow that we get, it's just so appealing to the eye. And for me, I love that, especially in a portrait where we're shooting primarily women. So that brings me to conclude that the film look is obviously a bit of edited, but we come to digital work. We lower the contrast, we add the bloom, we lower clarity. But a lot of the characteristics that we think of with film actually comes from the lens. So the look starts before you even press the shutter. It's baked into that film from amazing pieces of glass like these. That doesn't just make my RF lenses completely redundant. Don't get me wrong, those lenses are amazing lenses and they have their place, especially in professional work where it needs to be fast, it's clinical, it needs to be of high quality and sharpness. But if I'm carrying a film camera around, or if I'm shooting some personal work or some form of art project, then I might even opt for the vintage lenses. So if you want to achieve this look and you want to try something fun, I highly recommend getting an adapter, adapting your vintage lenses to your modern digital bodies. Just go out, have fun and shoot. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give me a like and follow me on Instagram for more content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.